Hello, I'm Lindsay, and it's time to play catch up. February was a hectic month for me. Hectic good, not bad. But either way, let's talk about some movies that I have not gotten to yet, and I cannot think of a better way to start than with... Guys, I had a whole huge plan for this one. I saw it on Valentine's Eve with my lady, and we got all dressed up in our fancy pants, and we were going to go see it, and then afterwards we were going to review it together. Doesn't that sound like fun? But the movie was so bad, it actually robbed us of any desire to do so, of any notion of discussing it in depth. And can you blame us? This movie has less than no depth to it, all but no plot, terrible dialogue spoken by just bad characters, and despite the controversial sexual whatnots, it somehow only has like 8 minutes of sex in its 125-minute runtime, which for the record is 6%. How does that happen? Now, I'm not saying your movie needs to have a lot of sex in it in order to be good, but if your movie is based on an intellectual property made famous by its excessive and over-the-top sex, maybe, just maybe, there should be a little more than 10-ish minutes of stuffing in your over 2-hour-long movie. Especially if you're being overly dependent on the sexual nature of the film in the advertising. Now, if we're being honest, there actually was some potential here. The leading lady, Anastasia Steele, as hilariously porn-like as that name is, for about a half a second looked like she would be an interesting character. In the beginning, she has control of the situation and toys with Christian, has fun at his expense, and I kept expecting once the BDSM started for there to be a scene where Anastasia took control somehow, tying up Christian and then turning him into her plaything for a change, thusly giving the characters arcs, a third dimension, some form of complexity and realism. But nope, good God, no! Giving characters extra dimensions in a story titled 50 Shades of Insert Male Character's Name here? Are you crazy? Are you high? What part of anything anyone said just there implied that this would be about people having multiple layers? Yes, they throw in a little bit of fluff about Christian's mom dying when he was really young. But you know what? They don't do anything with it in this story, and they save doing anything with it for the sequels. And as I said of The Maze Runner, if you wait until your sequels to do the things that make part 1 good, you make part 1 shit. So it is shit, and it will always be shit. Oh, and according to 50 Shades of Grey, if a woman is still a virgin in her mid-20s, it's because no guy has ever said, "Virgin, let's do something about that." And yet, the movie is making all the money ever.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
But that's enough bile. Let's talk about something fun. Man, guys, Matthew Vaughn is just on fire right now. Kick-Ass, X-Men First Class, and now Kingsman. Bing, bang, boom. Keep it up, sir. Like all of his movies, this one has just such a great energy and feel to it, and the visual style is just arresting. One of my favorite scenes in the movie was a chase sequence that takes place in what looks like a level out of GoldenEye. That is just so awesome! With all the gadgetry, the secret bases, the fancy suits, this movie has the feel of a modern, old-school James Bond movie, but at the same time, it's undoubtedly its own thing in its own world with its own characters. Great characters. The lead, Eggsy, is an effective everyman. Samuel L. Jackson is a really fun villain with a delightful lisp, and Colin Firth is a goddamn badass! Kingsman has brains, too, because it really is about something. It may just be another class metaphor story, true, but it's well done. In fact, the movie has some real fun with Eggsy's assumption that everyone thinks so little of him because of his social status. It may not be the most subtle thing ever, but good execution, a newer angle, and some brains make up for that. Humor helps a great deal too, and this movie is hilarious. Several of the action scenes in this movie just had me just howling out loud with laughter at just the sheer absurdity at what I was seeing on screen. It was so much fun every step of the way. The grand scheme of the story may be little more than your basic hero's journey, and I did call a couple things as they started coming, but you know what? There's just so much fun, so much energy, and just so much awesomeness in this movie that you know what? The movie has made more than double its budget already, and that means we're probably getting a sequel, and let's just sum this up nice and easy. I can't wait. This one's tricky. I'll argue in defense of the Wachowskis till my dying breath. Yes, even Cloud Atlas. But more on that another time. This one, though, I don't want to call this movie bad. I really don't. Maybe that's because I'm pre-programmed to like the Wachowskis. Maybe it's because the visuals are just so epic. Maybe it's because the ideas are interesting, and they are. Maybe it's Maybelline. I don't know. But I don't want to call this movie bad. But my impulse is to call it bad. The characters are just not interesting. Their wants and motivations are at best weak and at worst unrelatable. Take, for example, the main character, Jupiter Jones, another character with an extremely porny name, who learns she legally owns the Earth in a crazy cosmic sci-fi-esque way, and she doesn't care. JJ here might have the single most nonchalant response imaginable to, "You own the Earth." And I don't blame Mila for this. I think she's a good actress. It's the way the character was written, in that no matter what happens, no matter what she learns, no matter what she goes through, all she wants to do is go home. Now, I will admit that maybe there's something in there that I'm just not getting. That's totally possible. And I do have kind of a half-cocked, kooky Wizard of Oz theory going on up here right now, but it needs thought, so I'm not going to go into that right now. Anywhoodle, segues aside, Jupiter's stubborn determination just to get back to her home and to continue living her toilet-scrubbing horrific life makes her hard to like. Active characters are always more interesting than inactive characters. Yes, denial is a stage of the hero's journey, but at some point your lead needs to accept the adventure and go along with the ride. Otherwise, there's no story, so what's the point? But that's enough hating on something made by people that I respect. So that was February's major releases, almost halfway through March. What are you gonna do? Well, I know what I'm gonna do. It's 5 in the morning, so I'm gonna go to sleep. But for now, live long and prosper, my friends.